My daughter called me selfish because I didn't want her mother's former lover at her wedding. After that, I stepped out of her life and never turned back. I never thought I'd become the villain in my own daughter's story. Her name is Leia. She's 27 now. Intelligent, beautiful, determined, just like her mother. After the divorce, I was the one who raised her, mostly on my own. Her mom, Diane, was rarely around, always finding herself. Later I realized that meant she was unfaithful while I worked double shifts to keep our home stable. Diane and I were married for 12 years. I believed we were solid. I wasn't exciting, but I was steady. A husband, a father, a provider. Then one night when Leia was 10, everything fell apart. She was building a solar system project for school. I went to the garage for glue and accidentally grabbed Diane's phone instead of mine. A message appeared that froze me inside. I miss last night already. Wish you were back in my bed. Travis. Travis was my friend. We had worked together years earlier, and he became part of our circle. He came over for dinner, joined our barbecues, played chess with me in the living room. I even drove him to the hospital when his mother passed. All the while, he was secretly involved with my wife. I couldn't confront Diane then. I just stood there, holding the phone, while my daughter called for help gluing Jupiter onto her project. Within a week, I filed for divorce. No screaming, no scenes, just clean and quiet. Diane tried to tell others we had grown apart. I didn't correct her for Leia's sake. I didn't want her caught in the fire. Diane moved in with Travis before the divorce papers dried. That was 17 years ago. Through it all, I stayed civil for my daughter. I showed up at every event, every birthday, every scraped knee, every late-night homework assignment. When she got into her dream college, she called me first. That moment meant everything. So, when Leia phoned me recently, filled with joy about her wedding, I was truly happy. She said she met a man named Jonah. Kind, respectful, dependable like you, Dad. My heart lifted. She asked me to walk her down the aisle. I said I'd be honored. Then she paused. There's something else, she said. Travis will be there. I want him to come. Travis, the man who ruined my marriage. She said he'd been in her life for years, and she didn't want any conflict on her wedding day. I asked if she really expected me to sit near the man who tore my family apart. She grew defensive. This is my day. Travis isn't your enemy anymore, is he? I didn't shout or curse. I just said calmly that I couldn't. I wouldn't sit there pretending it was fine. Then she said it, you're being petty. Not sad, not upset. Petty. That word cut deeper than anything. I told her I wished her joy with Jonah, but I wouldn't be there. She didn't cry, didn't beg. Just a cold, dismissive, suit yourself. And the call ended. That was 6 months ago. The wedding happened. I saw photos online from relatives. Diane wore a bright white gown, stealing the spotlight as if she were the bride. Travis stood tall beside her, hand in hand like nothing had happened. And Leia, my daughter, was walking down the aisle with him at her side. Felt like I died, or worse, like I never mattered at all. 2 weeks later, I boxed up all her childhood photos. Not out of anger but grief. I couldn't keep looking at memories that she had erased. She left me a voicemail around Christmas. I heard the first words, I hope you can move past. Then deleted it. Last week there was a knock at my door. It was Diane. She looked older, worn down. I didn't invite her in, and she didn't ask. She just said she didn't know. Didn't know what? She thought I had left her because love had faded. She had no idea I knew about the affair. I had never told her. Apparently, during a fight, Travis confessed everything. How they had been together while she was still married to me. How he came over when I worked night shifts. Diane admitted she felt like a fool. She was furious now. She left him, cut him off. She said Leia moved out of state with Jonah last week. And now Diane wanted to talk. She said she finally understood what she had done, that maybe she had misjudged me all those years ago. I said nothing. After all this time, what was left to say? I nodded, more to myself than to her, and said quietly, I wish her well, but I'm done. Diane's face shifted, surprised. "She's your daughter," she whispered softly. "She was," I answered softly. "And I loved her enough to let her believe the best of you." I carried that truth for 17 years, so she could feel like she had two parents who loved her. But when she chose him over me, even after knowing I was the one who stayed, she made her decision. I closed the door before Diane could say more. Not every story ends with shouting or a neat finish. Some end in quiet, with a truth that doesn't need to be spoken loudly. Love, despite what people claim, isn't always enough. Not when trust has been shattered. I didn't walk away out of anger. I stepped back because I finally understood something difficult. Sometimes the people we suffer for end up standing with the ones who caused the pain. And I wasn't going to sit in the front row and pretend like none of it had happened. That was the day I let go. And from that day on I didn't look back. About 6 months later a letter came. Not a text, not an email. An actual handwritten letter in a plain envelope. No return address. But I knew the writing right away. It was Leia's. The same looping script she used on the Father's Day card she made in 3rd grade. The one where she spelled hero as harrow. I still have that card somewhere. I didn't open the letter at once. It sat on the table for 3 days. I moved it around like it was fragile or dangerous, as if it might burst with everything left unsaid. Maybe I wasn't ready. Maybe I was afraid she'd try to smooth over the past when it was never simple. But one night, with a glass of bourbon, I sat down and read. "Dad, I don't know how to begin except by saying I was wrong. So wrong." I thought about that call every single day. The word petty makes me sick now. I don't even know why I said it. Maybe I was protecting something. My dream of a perfect day, maybe, or my own denial. You were always there. Always. When Mom skipped my piano recital, you were the one clapping in the front row. When I was scared before my driving test, you spent hours with me in parking lots cheering me on. When Jonah and I had our first fight and I called crying at 2 a.m., you picked up right away. And when I told you I was getting married, your voice cracked with pride. I should have seen it then. I thought Travis was just some piece of the past. I didn't know. Mom told me your marriage just faded, like it fell apart naturally. She never told me about the affair. Not until later, when things with Travis soured and he got cruel, angry. He said things he had no right to know. And then I saw it. I saw what you had carried all those years. You never called Mom the villain. You let me love her without guilt. You gave me that. You never forced me to choose. But when I asked you to sit near him, near the man who betrayed you, I pushed you. And I chose wrong. I'm not asking forgiveness. I don't expect anything. I just want you to know I see it now. All of it. And I'm sorry it took so long. I love you, Dad. If there's still a way back, I'll wait for it. I broke down crying. I hadn't cried during the divorce. I didn't cry when I saw her wedding photos. But this letter split something open. I cried for the little girl who thought her school project mattered more than the cracks in her parents' marriage. I cried for the man who stayed silent so she could love freely. And I cried for the father who never knew if he'd hear his daughter say, "I love you" again, without anger attached. But I didn't call her. Not yet. I needed time to sit with it, to decide if I was ready to open that door again, or just look from a distance for a while. 3 months later, I was at the hardware store buying paint for the guest room, one I hadn't used in years. A little girl walked past, dragging a stuffed tiger, asking her dad why paint had eggshell if it wasn't made of eggs. I smiled, remembering Leia at that age. Then I heard it. Voice. Turned. There she was. No makeup, hair in a messy bun, grocery bag hanging from one hand. That same nervous lip bite she used to do when she knew she was in trouble but hoped to slip by. She didn't say a word, just stood there, bracing herself. I opened my arms. She dropped the bag, and we stood in the middle of aisle 17 between paint cans, crying like two people who had finally found each other again after being lost. We didn't fix everything with one hug. Healing doesn't work that way. But we met for coffee the next day, and again the next week. Talked. We argued. We started slowly rebuilding what had broken. I told her everything. Not out of spite, but because she deserved the full truth, finally without filters. She's in therapy now. Real therapy, the kind that helps sort through the ruins left behind. And she's expecting a baby girl. She asked me to be part of her life, not just as a grandfather, but as the father she wants to model for her child. I said yes, because love doesn't mean erasing the hurt. Sometimes it means facing it together, if both people are willing to bleed a little to find their way back. So no, I didn't look back the day I shut the door. But I did leave the porch light on. And in the end, she found her way home.